So, hey Sagittarius, my name is Chris, and this is your beautiful reading for whenever you find it in 2026. 10 cards, it's the beautiful King of Cups and the Hierophant. Strong energies, right? Knowing yourself, knowing your feelings, speaking up about it, kind of being an example, leading by example, just emotional maturity, you know, owning your own emotions, not trying to hide yourself, not trying to hide your feelings. And by that, you might kind of step into a leader role, right? Or become some sort of example. So where can you be yourself and really own it? Not being loud about it, but just be true to yourself and speak your truth. Coming from the heart, that's the King of Cups, right? There is the Tower and the Six of Swords. So you're leaving behind a structure that was too tight for you. Lightning struck, right? Something was just not meant for you. It was too tight. It was limiting your potential. And there was an intervention from the universe, so to speak. And you're moving on from this. You're not moving on from this in the victory march. It's not the Six of Wands, right? But it is the Six of Swords. So it's kind of more intellectually, consciousness-wise, that you're moving on from something, you know, you're moving towards calmer shores, so to speak. And the moment you get out of that boat, I would say, you step into that big power of the Hierophant, King of Cups energy. Working on what you love to do, right? That's the beautiful Nine of Cups, one of my most beloved cards of the entire deck, tarot card deck. And there's the Eight of Pentacles. So work related, can you kind of make this couple working with the 8 and the 9? Eight of Pentacles, Nine of Cups. That's pretty much bringing joy and happiness to your work. Maybe you're not taking it that serious, maybe you can bring a little joy and fun in it. The Ace of Swords, a new consciousness, that's for sure. Your old plan, your old structure, your old, probably since 2008, something like that, collapsed, and you're moving on from that. It's kind of the energy for 2026 anyway. We are moving into a better system. The Ace of Swords and the Queen of Pentacles, that's for sure. Then we got 8 and 2 more, and we got 10. You got this. You got this totally. And it's time for you to move on. You're going to find the right people if you just make sure that you work. What you're making your money with. This is Pentacles energy with the Eight of Pentacles. What you work, maybe you had in the old paradigm, I would almost say, in that structure, right? That is pretty much Pluto in Capricorn since 2008. Doubling down, just working really hard, you know, cutting down on your fun, cutting down on your life, just really giving it everything you've got for your work, for your career, for what you think society expected of you, right? Working hard, you know, things like that. And you build a structure out of that, but this structure was kind of killing yourself, and it was taking away the joy and the happiness and maybe even your true calling, because your true calling, this is 2026, right? We can talk about true callings, even if it's just a whenever you find it reading, right? You got something to give, and what you got to give has everything to do with the King of Cups, right? Kind of INFJ vibes here with the Emperor and the King of Cups, right? You're moving on from that structure, and you might not feel super happy that you lost it. But what you lost was not for you. It was just not working for you. It was not serving the highest version of yourself. There is a new consciousness. You're coming out of this with a new consciousness. There is more Swords energy. You're moving on from that old structure. Ace of Swords, the Queen of Pentacles. So whatever you working on as long as there is fun and it is an expression of that more what used to be missing in your life, in the old circle, in the old developmental cycle, so to speak. So your work has to be, there needs to be fun. It's not, you can't give up your brain and your soul at the door when you check into work, right? That is just very toxic, can't be. And if there are people who are complete assholes, then you need to find a different place to work, right? So you need to be yourself, and you need to have some form of joy, feeling of, okay, I'm not at the complete wrong place, even if it's about work. And nowadays, most of the jobs are kind of bullshit jobs, but they are designed by bullshit people, right? So sorry. But you know how it is, right? So you got everything you need to make this working. Just make sure that there's joy and happiness in what it is that you're doing. You get something to teach here, but maybe you are kind of this teacher that is just leading by example, just by your authenticity and integrity. You get everything you need to move on from that tower. There's the Wheel of Fortune, right? It's really destiny calling. And in 2026, we're laying the foundation for the next 20 years, basically. That's very important to emphasize. So you're going to work in the next 20 years, right? So make sure that work has some sort of meaning and that you're not dreading to do it, but you're actually enjoying it. It might still be work, right? But you're behind it. Your heart is involved in it. You're not leaving, as I said, your heart and your soul at the door when you check into work, but you take it with you because there's some meaning in it that you really stand behind. That is this combination with the Nine of Cups and the Eight of Pentacles. You get an idea, right? You're coming from this tower moment, moving on with the Six of Swords, right? And there's a new idea. You know it. It's not like you're just following your passion or you're just following your heart. You got a plan, and you realize that what was missing probably has everything to do with joy, has everything to do with emotional maturity, and just, being who you are unapologetically, right? Maybe you're gay, maybe you're straight, maybe you're bisexual, maybe you're a freaking trans unicorn, whatever. But if you have to hide that wherever you work, if you cannot be yourself wherever there was something toxic with that tower. It's always the same story. Maybe that tower looked impressive from the outside. Maybe it looked impressive on your CV, but it was toxic. You didn't enjoy that tower because a tower is a way too tight and limiting structure, and it had to come down to open you up for that joy, that part of yourself that is kind of leading with that emotional vibe, maturity. There's just leadership through emotion. But if you have to leave your heart and your soul behind when you go to work, then you cannot be that, right? And to find a way to be that authentically and let your light shine, that is the task, right, for 2026. And that is where we're going onward from now on, pretty much for the next 20 years. You're going to meet the right people if you are in that frequency, right? If you are, if you are showing up authentically who you truly are, if you're not hiding yourself, you don't need to advertise yourself, you don't need to brag about, it's not about grandiosity or narcissism. You don't need to say, oh, I'm the greatest, look at me, all the freaking time. That's not what I'm saying, but not hiding yourself, just being yourself, not overthinking every other sentence that you say, Might they like that? Might they misunderstand that? Maybe, if they don't like it and if they misunderstand it, that's the wrong people for you. So you're not finding out if you're with the wrong people, if you're not being yourself, if you're trying to appease or please people, if you wear a mask, you're kind of attracting the people who like the mask. But if you want to attract the right people who like you, you have to show up as who you truly are. There's the Empress underneath. Beautiful. Empress shows up all the freaking time. In 2026, especially the yearly readings, especially the summer readings. Let's just take care as well. There's the Empress. That's inner mastership. And I mean, if the Hierophant is here, you achieved inner mastership nonetheless, but you're bringing it out and you're leading with that, right? A few clarifiers. Yeah. There's the Tower, and then there's the Four of Pentacles, and the Four of Pentacles is the devil you know. Something is missing with the Four of Cups, Four of Pentacles, right? But the Four of Pentacles is wearing a crown, and there is a crown on top of that tower as well. So you achieved something, but you achieved something with an incomplete... It was not the highest expression of yourself because you left parts of yourself out of that. Whatever you created, there were parts of you that was they were kind of excluded. You didn't bring them, you didn't build them into that structure, what you built. And you achieved something. There's a crown on top of the tower. There's a crown on the Four of Pentacles guy, which is, I think, the only person in the entire tarot card deck that is wearing a crown except the kings and queens, of course. So the Four of Pentacles guy, he built something. You built that tower, right? Beautiful. That was an achievement. But you know what? There is and was something missing, and the Four of Pentacles is kind of the devil you know, something you settled for. It wasn't quite right, but you settled for it. But now it's time to correct that, and really, maybe you don't need to have that tower with a crown. Maybe it can be something smaller, something easier, something less ambitious. And maybe you're much happier with that, and it's much more in alignment with who you truly are. So this is not about grandiosity, right? You don't need a tower with a crown. You can just be... The Nine of Cups guy is not wearing a crown. He's fancy clothes, he has funny hat, right? And he's very proud of what he's doing because it's meaningful to him. So that's much more worse than that stupid tower with a crown, right? That's the chakra system symbolized here. 4 chakras placed, 3 chakras missing. A sense of security, a sense of authenticity, speaking your truth. That's the throat chakra. And the third eye connection to the right people. And they only can come in if you show the world who you truly are. Because otherwise you're attracting the people that are, responding or attracted to the mask that you're wearing. That's not a good idea, So you're finally showing up as who you truly are. Internally, you're completely in harmony with yourself. Otherwise, the Hierophant couldn't even be there, right? So there is an inner mastery. You just did your homework, right? You brought out the trash, so to speak, of your subconsciousness. You integrated your shadow. You got to know yourself, and you tidied up your internal affairs. So now you can step out as that integrated person. And in doing that, right, even if it's not a grandiose thing, even if it's not a big job title or whatever, just by doing that, you're one of the people who are just leading by example and by authenticity. Balancing it out, there's the Two of Pentacles. There is the Lovers, right? And the same, what I said about attracting the right people in workplace situations, if you truly show up as who you truly are, authentically, you're attracting the right people because you're attracting the people who are attracted to yourself, to your own true self. But if you're wearing a mask, you're attracting the people who are attracted to the mask. You don't want that. You don't want that in work-related situation, and you certainly do not want that in love affairs, right? When it comes to love, there's the lovers with the 8 and 9, 8 of Pentacles and 9 of Cups. Then we got Wheel of Fortune. You got everything you need to make this, to build this. And you don't need to be super ambitious about it. There needs to be a playfulness about it. There's the 7 of Pentacles and there is the 9 of Swords. So 7 of... What do we get? 7 of Pentacles and the 9 of Swords. The 9 of Swords is overthinking, sleepless nights, right? Losing sleep over things, over worries, repeating, overthinking thoughts. Usually concerning things that you cannot change. If you are in that funk, right? You know, maybe it's this inner voice that tells you, you know, who do you think you are? Do you think you can do that? Shouldn't you be, you know, a good cattle behind the fence, right? Like everyone else, just doing the 9 to 5 and, you know, just leaving your heart and your soul at the door when you check in at work. Isn't that the normal thing to do? And who do you think you are? Questioning that, right? Who do you think you are? You deserve something better. Well, you're a human being. You're divine expression of the universe. You're a child of God, of Brahman, of Allah, of whatever you want to call it. And you freaking deserve that. You know, if you have to leave your brain, sometimes even your brain, right? Parts of it is way enough if you check into one of these BS jobs, right? But, you know, if you have to leave your heart and your soul at the door when you check into work, that's ridiculous. You deserve better. And you deserve better just because you are a freaking divine child of this wonderful universe. Whatever you want to call it. I don't like the word God because it has been dragged into the mud and filth and dirt by very disgusting people for a very long time. I hope you're going to change that finally. But, you know, call it Brahman, call it Allah, call it unity consciousness, call it whatever you want. It has many names and its own name is silent because, you know, it's without a form. It's the transcendent God, so to speak, that is constituting all forms of immanence. That's what you get in my tarot card readings. Share, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think about it, right? Call out your own BS and don't lie to yourself. That's the basis of your mastery. That's your basis of... It's kind of connected to the Empress, to the Hierophant, King of Cups. Never lie to yourself. And don't lie to other people. If you're around people who cannot handle that, these are not the right people for you. And they might admire your tower and they might shame you for, oh, you lost your tower, or, you know, but you know, who wants to live in that tower? Too tight, too narrow, and who needs that stupid crown, right? Having said that, I was bitching a lot about these people, right? Observe what you dislike in others. We totally observe that, right? Seek those traits within yourself, unlearn them, and this is how you nurture self-love, yeah? So you seek the traits that you don't like in other people, and you make sure that you're not behaving the same way. Call out your own bullshit, don't lie to yourself. You know, your entire self-mastery and this teacher role, or just leading by example, leading by authenticity, is based upon, you know, authenticity and being honest and true to yourself, constant shadow integration, always looking into your subconsciousness and calling yourself out for your own BS, not believing your own lies. Narcissistic people, especially those who have a lot of power, they surround themselves with yes persons, yes people, right? And they always say, yeah, sure, you're right, absolutely. Oh, that's so wonderful. Look at you. And, you know, if you're surrounded by yes men and nobody ever tells you your own BS and you're a narcissist, you don't deal with your subconscious frequency, you shove it down, you try to negate shadow aspects of yourself. These people really believe their own lies, right? And that's never become like that, right? That's Pluto in Capricorn since 2008, for example, right? We can call it that. But Pluto is in Aquarius now and for the next 20 years. So let's use that. It's no longer about culpa mea culpa. We're just working through and giving 120% and we're nailing ourselves on the cross. No. It's Pluto in Pluto in Aquarius. There's the cup, right? There's Philautia, there's self-love, right? The grail. That's a symbol for self-love. That's the Ace of Cups, my friend. So let's just see what else we got. The functionality of evil is negation. So don't negate aspects of yourself. You know, that's shadow work, basically. And you do shadow work on a daily basis by doing breath work. If you are in a funky frequency where you think about your tower and how the lightning struck and it was kind of collapsing and you were holding on to this. So it was a really, there's a frequency here, you know, 4 of Pentacles, the devil, you know, holding on very tightly. And the 6 of Wands, you were not moving on to the next thing joyfully. You were kind of sitting in that boat and you were thinking, you know. But here it is, the new consciousness, and it falls on fertile ground. It stabilizes your life. It brings back balance by reintegrating joy and happiness and authenticity, your true self, an aspect of yourself that was not part of that tower stuff. Balancing that out, you know, building something maybe a little smaller than a tower, maybe something without a crown, not the 4 of Pentacles, but the 9 of Cups. 8 of Pentacles is not wearing a crown either. Nobody does except the 4 of Pentacles guy. You got this. Everything looks pretty promising. And you did your homework internally, totally. And what I always say, constant daily practice of shadow work is breath work and meditation. Really, meditation is the most important thing for, it's kind of it's a practice that makes you immune to that narcissistic trap of believing your own lies. So if you sit for half an hour in silence, you know, and you just sit there, everything that you shove down your subconsciousness, everything that you try to negate, every aspect of yourself that you think is poisoned by shame, guilt, fear, I don't want anything to do with it, I negate it, I shove it down my subconsciousness, right? Suppress it, oppress it. But you know what? It's an aspect of yourself. You can't, it's not going to work. You can cut off your arm, but you can't cut off parts of your consciousness, of your soul, so to speak. So it's not going to working, but a lot of people do that because they just can't handle it. So if you have not killed people or did horrible crimes, if you're just a freak or gay or this or that, you know, you have no reason to hide yourself, you know, depending on which country you're living in. It's different in different societies, sure, but, you know, you should love yourself, you know, everything that is happening between consenting adults with good intention while nobody gets hurt. Consenting adults, good intention, nobody gets hurt. So what? Wonderful. right? So if you can sit with that, and if you can sort out the shame, guilt, fear, and, you know, if there is something that needs correction, if there's something that you're not proud of, then by all means take responsibility for it. But, you know, getting to know yourself, if you sit there in silence for half an hour or whatever it is that you can do, 15 minutes, 10 minutes at the beginning, maybe it's just 5 minutes. There are people who literally cannot stand themselves in silence, in a room, sitting there in silence with themselves, because they're so fragmented and so just ruled by their own shadow and believing their own lies. So they lost complete contact with their own internal workings. So if you sit there for half an hour or whatever you can do, right? For some people, it's even 5 minutes that they can't do. You're confronted with these inconsistencies. If there's something that bothers you, it comes up. It lets you know, hey, I'm here. Do you see me? Do you hear me? Do you feel me? And then you have to recognize it, aspects of yourself. And that's how you do constant shadow work. It's a daily practice. It's meditation. You get to know yourself. True meditation. You're not running away from yourself. You're owning your own BS. You're no longer believing your own lies, right? You're befriending yourself. You're healing yourself. It's a healing process, literally, to reintegrate formerly negated aspects of your own consciousness. So enough said about that. I could talk about this like forever because it's so freaking important, but you got this, right? With the Empress here in the foundation, so to speak, you did your homework. And that structure, that outer structure, that tower, that's something you built in the real world, was connected to a version that was negating aspects of yourself. And you're no longer doing that, so you need something else. That's just how it is. Dragon magic, good fortune. This card represents a portal through which dragon consciousness can interact with human consciousness. Dragon consciousness is becoming more and more accessible. The power of the elements air, water, fire, and earth are called upon to restore balance. Dragon brings good fortune and magically transform a situation in your life. Call upon reason, strength, and self-assurance, and through dragon magic, these powers will be granted to you. This auspicious time brings favorable and tangible results. Beautiful. Sorry. Dragon magic, right? And I'm doing tarot card readings because I want to talk about dragon magic, right? And I have a scientific streak as well. So if you're completely scientifically minded, you're probably not watching tarot card readings. But just because we can't explain something, just because we don't understand something, doesn't mean it's not there. Right? Just because we don't like something, just because we, whether it's aspects of your own psyche that you try to negate because guilt, fear, shame, or whether it is just phenomena and functionality, workings of the universe that we just not yet understand. These things are working nonetheless, right? So you can trust on them. Good fortune, dragon magic. There is so much support. There's the Wheel of Fortune. There's the Ace of Pentacles. The Page of Pentacles is also this assurance that you got everything you need. Just keep going and building your life with that aspect of yourself, joy, happiness that you left out before. Fertile ground with the Queen of Pentacles, and it's this combination of the Ace of Swords, an idea, right, that falls on fertile ground, that is literally crystallized out, materialized in the real world. Super support from the universe. You don't have a problem, if you watch tarot cards readings, you don't have a problem with that, but some people do, and take a deep dive. That's the Swan Spirit. in this corner of the Hierophant and the Empress, the King of Cups here, never lie to yourself. Meditation, that's the daily practice that I'm preaching here. And that's all I got. Share, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think about it. Check out the yearly reading, check out the summer reading. I'm going to link this somewhere around here. And if you want the full picture, you can check out your sun, moon, and rising sign. And hopefully see you next time. Now, my friend. Ciao.